Today, we are going to be talking about what it means when the Crown Prosecution Service decide not to charge a defendant. Generally, cases can have a few outcomes, guilty or not guilty, but before it even gets there, the case might reach a no charge outcome, where the Crown Prosecution Service are no longer taking the case forward, and that's what we'll be focusing on today. So just to have that written down, no charge is where the Crown Prosecution Service choose not to charge the defendant with the crime. A defendant is the person that the police think committed the crime. If the police think they have enough evidence, they might charge the defendant. This means that they will formally accuse the defendant of committing the crime. Once the defendant has been charged, the Crown Prosecution Service will attempt to prosecute them. This means that the Crown Prosecution Service will try to prove that the defendant committed the crime in a court of law. Imagine that your story is reflected in a mirror, and the mirror is how everyone else gets to see what happened. Each piece of evidence builds up this picture, like a jigsaw, and it is all put together to recreate what happened. Each piece might represent a bit of evidence, such as your video interview, other testimonies, or other photos and video footage. It can take a long time to find the different bits of evidence. Over time, this picture might change, lose some of the detail, become a little blurry, or lose key pieces of evidence, and somehow the picture becomes harder to make out. Here, the police are just trying to piece together the puzzle and form the most complete picture possible, but it will always be a bit fragmented, and there will always be some missing pieces. This process isn't always straightforward. Sometimes the pieces don't quite fit together. Perhaps there is conflicting evidence or different accounts of the same story. Once the police think they have pieced together the puzzle, they have to present the case to the CPS. The CPS will decide whether to charge the defendant with the crime that the police think they have committed. The CPS is made up of people with expertise in legal and police matters. Many of the people who work for the CPS are lawyers, whilst others help the prosecutors to prepare for court. The CPS are independent of the police. The police investigate a case, and the CPS decides which cases should be prosecuted. The CPS have to decide who to charge and what crime to charge them with. In order to charge a person, they must be sure that there is a realistic prospect of conviction and that prosecuting this person is in the public interest. A realistic prospect of conviction means that the CPS think that at least 10 out of the 12 jurors will believe beyond any reasonable doubt that the defendant committed the crime. In order to charge the defendant, the CPS must think about whether they can piece together the puzzle. They might decide not to charge because they haven't quite got enough evidence to be sure that there is a realistic prospect of conviction. This does not mean that the CPS does not believe you, or that your evidence was not good enough, or that it didn't happen. This doesn't mean that the support you are getting is going to end, and you are not on your own. Your evidence will always remain on file at the police station. New evidence might come to light which might make the case clearer in the future. If you don't agree with the CPS decision not to charge, you have the right to review. A CPS prosecutor who was not involved in your case will look at the case and they may make one of three decisions. They may decide that the decision not to charge was wrong. They may decide that the decision not to charge was right, but that you should be provided with more information about this decision. Or they may decide that the decision not to charge was right and no more information can be provided. If you want to exercise your right to review, you should contact the CPS office where the decision was made. You can find the contact details for this office on the letter you have received from the CPS or by asking your CHISVA. For more information and support at any point, get in contact with your CHISVA or contact Childline.